What's going on, everyone? Today we're going to be doing an E0 to E6 damage test for Boothill, and if you guys want a full explanation of his kit, build, and team options, make sure you guys watch my previous upload. I cover everything you need to know in that video. And with that being said, make sure you guys stick around until the end if you would like to see big damage in Simulated Universe at S5, E6, and R1 Ranmei. I also want to quickly mention that this is being recorded on the Creator Experience server, which was provided to us by Hoyoverse, so that means things are subject to change on final release. Now, before we get to the build, I do want to say that I did compare this build to a full 3k attack build, and they did about the same damage, so we're just going to use this build for this video. And this build is going to have 2k attack with 138 speed, but that speed is going to go up later on, 44.8% crit rate, 151 crit damage, and 261 break, but that's also going to go up later on. As for the light cone, we are running the signature light cone at S1, traces maxed out, and we're using a full set of shooting meteors since as of version 2.2 this is the best set with banditry. For the main stats, we're using a crit damage chest, speed boots, physical damage orb, and break effect rope. And of course, to start, this is going to be at E0. The team that we're going to bring to the damage test is going to be Harmony Trailblazer for the increased break effect, and she's also going to have S5 Carve the Moon, Ranmei for the increased damage and all type resistance penetration, and she's also going to have her signature light cone as well as the Watchmaker relic set for the increased break effect for our team, and then Gallagher is there for the sustain and increased break effect damage. To start, let's go ahead and check out Boothill's stats to see where he stands before we buff him with our allies. So right now, from his passive that scales off of break, he has 74.8% crit rate and 301% crit damage, and that's coming from 330 break. So now let's go ahead and farm energy to get our ultimates ready to buff Boothill, and we also need to make sure that we have our stacks ready to go. And now that we have all of our stacks and all of our ultimates ready to go, let's go ahead and buff Boothill. Let's get this ready. So Gallagher is going to go ahead and increase break effect damage, Ranmei is going to increase all type resistance penetration, and Harmony Trailblazer is going to increase break. And then now let's go ahead and apply physical weakness to the enemy so we can do more damage on it. Now let's go ahead and do the standoff, and before we attack, let's go ahead and check out the stats to see what we have. And now he is at 402 break, so this should do a lot of damage. He also has 92% physical damage boost. All right, Boothill, what you got? 645k total damage. That's pretty good for E0, and considering that this is difficulty 6 Swarm King. So let's go ahead and activate this first Eidolon. This is going to make sure that Boothill starts off the battle with one stack ready to go, so it's gonna make it easier for me to do these damage tests, and also he's going to ignore 16% of the target enemy's defense. So since Boothill started the battle with one stack, that means we're only gonna have to kill one of these minions, since we're gonna get one stack from breaking and one stack from killing, which is gonna be a total of 3. Easy. Now this attack should ignore 16% of the enemy target's defense, so let's see how much damage it does. So 651k from 645 is not that big of a jump, but at least it's something. Now let's go ahead and activate this second Eidolon. This is going to allow you to recover skill points when you're in standoff mode and you gain stacks, and it's also going to increase your break effect by 30%. So this is going to be a great Eidolon for not only more damage, but also skill point hungry teams. Now, before we do the E2 damage test, I just want to quickly show you guys that you will be recovering 1 skill point after gaining a stack in standoff mode. As you can see, we're at 4, and now we are at 5 because we just got a stack. Perfect. Now, before we show you the damage, let's go ahead and check out how much break we have. As you can see, we went from 400 to 430% because our E2 gives us 30% extra break, and that is going to do 689k. So we are slowly getting closer to 700k. Now let's go ahead and activate our third Eidolon, which is pretty self-explanatory. It's just going to add 2 levels to the ultimate and 1 to the basic. So that's going to put us at a total of 7 for the basic and 12 for the ultimate. Okay, now for the E3 damage test to see what we get here. 696k. I was hoping for 700k, but I think we'll eventually get that. Okay, now for the fourth Eidolon, this is going to allow Boothill to do 12% increased damage each time he attacks the enemy that he's in standoff mode with, but if he gets attacked by that enemy, it's going to offset it by 12, reducing the buff. And from my understanding, you can stack this buff more than once. So for this video, we are going to attempt to get it to 24% by attacking him twice, but if you can't stack it, let me know in the comments. It doesn't say anything about stacking here, but we're going to try to do it anyways. So now we're going to attempt to get our 2 stacks to get our increased damage. This first hit should give us 12% increased. And now we're going to attack with Trailblazer on the minion so we don't break. And now our second hit is going to do 24% increased damage, which is going to be a total of 745k. We've been struggling to hit that number or to get above 700k, but all it took was E4, I guess. Okay, now for the 5th Eidolon activation. Once again, this is going to be self-explanatory. It's going to increase our skill and talent level by 2, and that is going to put us to a total of 12 for the skill and 12 for the talent. All right, for this damage test, we're doing exactly what we did last time, but this time E5, and that's going to put us to 799k. They couldn't have just given me the 800k. Honestly, we'll just round it to 800k, all right? That's copium, but that was not bad. That was a pretty good jump. So we went from 745 to 799. And now for the final Eidolon, this is essentially going to allow you to do more damage, but not only that, it's kind of going to turn them into a multi-target DPS by dealing damage to adjacent targets, which is going to be 70% of the original damage multiplier. Now let's see how much damage he does. 1.32 million damage. That is an insane jump. So he went from 800k to 1.3 million from E5 to E6. That's a huge jump. Now, before we do our final test in simulated universe to do big damage, I do want to show you guys what the light cone looks like when it's maxed out at S5. So that's going to increase our break effect by 100%. It's going to ignore 32% of the target's defense. It's also going to give us 20% increased speed, which is really good. And for this test, I also activated the first Eidolon for Ron May, so we can ignore 20% of the target's defense. So we're going to be doing this bonus test in World 5 since Kafka is weak against physical damage. And we're going to use the same team that we used for the entire video. For the path, I chose Nihility because I really wanted to get the break effect and break efficiency buffs. All right, so I'm not going to have you guys sit through the whole entire SU grind. So let's go ahead and skip to the end and show you what this does. Let's see. The first hit, 1 million. Total damage. It popped the shield right off. No struggle in that first phase. The second phase, I'm expecting to do more damage because we are going to have all the ultimates ready to go. Curious to see what this looks like because this should be peak damage. Okay, now we have everything ready to go. Let's see how much damage we do on phase 2. 1.37 mil. That's a lot, but not that much of a jump from just the regular E6 test. To be fair though, it is break damage and it's, you know, there's not really much that increases the break damage. But let's see phase 3. Phase 3 is probably going to be around like 1 million again. So the phase 3 break damage is going to be 1.1 mil. We literally bullied Kafka into the grave. That was insane, but a little underwhelming if I have to say so myself. I was hoping that at least at S5 I'd do more damage. All right, so final thoughts on Boothill's Eidolons. His first Eidolon is great if you want easier access to those stacks. Second Eidolon is going to be good if you want better efficiency for skill points. Everything other than that, is the damage worth it? Right now, break is in a weird spot. We're still waiting on some supports to come out for break and also relics. If you look at the chart that we have up on the screen right now, the damage between E0 and E4 is only about 100k, but there is a big gap between E5 and E6, 500k difference, but most people won't have access to those Eidolons since that's entering whale territory. So is it worth getting these Eidolons? As of right now, I don't know. I'll leave it up to you, but results will vary. You might see bigger numbers and bigger damage when you're fighting other things other than Swarm King, but the purpose of this video is to show you the differences in damage so you can see how much of an increase you'll get per Eidolon. And as you can see, it's not that much up until you hit like around E4, but even then it's not, 100k isn't that big of a difference. E5 and E6 though, it's a big one. But with that being said, I'll see you guys on the next one. Make sure you guys subscribe for more content, and until then, peace.